The book that I have chosen from the Old Testament is Hosea.
Who was the author?
In the Hebrew Bible, Hosea was a prophet of the kingdom Israel. He called on Israel to repent its sin of apostasy and warn of the judgment to come from God. His writings from the first of the Old Testament books of the Minor
To whom it was written?
The book of Hosea is addressed to the people of Northern Kingdom, Israel. Its 14 chapters contain both a warning concerning future events and its interpretation of these events' meanings. Throughout the book, the prophets speak to the people of Israel about the critical situation that developed during the years that immediately followed the death of Jeroboam II. Hosea wrote this book to remind the Israelites and us that ours is a loving God whose loyalty to His covenant people is unwavering. In spite of Israel's continual turning to false gods, God's steadfast love is portrayed in the long-suffering husband of the unfaithful wife. Hosea's message is also one of warning to those who would turn their backs on God's love. Through the symbolic presentation of the marriage of Hosea and Gomer, God's love for the idolatrous nation of Israel is displayed in a rich metaphor in the themes of sin, judgment, and forgiving
When
love.
it was written?
Hosea the son of Beeri prophesied for quite some time, from 785 to 725 BC. The book of Hosea was likely written between 755 to 725 BC.
Summary of the book.
The book of Hosea can be divided into two parts. Hosea chapter 1 verse 1 to chapter 3 verse 5 and Hosea chapter 4 verse 1 to chapter 12 verse 9. The first section of the book contains three distinctive points illustrating how God's children return time after time. God commands Hosea to marry Gomer, but after bearing him 3 children, she walks away from Hosea to her lovers. The symbolic emphasis can be seen clearly in the first chapter of Hosea compares Israel's action turning from marriage to life as a prostitute. The second section contains Hosea, the inaction of the Israelites, but followed by the promises and mercies of God. The book Hosea is prophetic accounting of God's relentless love of His children. Since the beginning of time, God's ungrateful and undeserving creation has been accepting God's love, grace, and mercy while still unable to refrain from its wickedness. The last part of Hosea shows how God's love once again restores her children as He forgets their misdeeds when they turn back to Him with a repentant heart. The prophetic message of Hosea foretells the coming of Israel 700 years in the future.
What is the relevance of the book to the present situation?
We need to be faithful even though others are not. Throughout the Old Testament, God used the prophets to warn the people of their sin and infidelity. God's faithfulness to His people is not the same as our faithfulness to God. When God is faithful to us, He cares for us, He leads us, and He loves us. When we're faithful to God, it means that we trust that He will care for us. We follow where He leads and we love Him in return. Being faithful also means that there will be some evidence of our
What is
faith
the
in God.
central message of the book?
The book of Hosea makes clear its impetuous theme. Though God will bring judgment on sin, He will always bring His people back to Himself. God loved for Israel, a nation of people more interested in themselves than in God's direction for their lives, shines through clearly against the darkness of their idolatry and injustice.